By now, I think everyone knows this story. Back in the early 90s, the Sega Genesis was a big gaming system selling millions in America, and Sonic the Hedgehog was one of the most popular game franchises on that system, and Sonic became an icon of video game culture. Then when the Dreamcast rolled around with the release of Sonic Adventure, Sonic fell hard, and it took people years to realize this, as Sega kept making more and more mediocre games. In fact, one IGN review of Sonic Adventure said it best: Sonic didn't get worse, Sonic just never got any better. The Sonic fanbase was seen as a running joke of bad fanfiction and shitty fan characters on the internet, with people such as Chris Chan being the public face of it. The Sonic comic disintegrated and was later cancelled as published by Archie thanks to a series of lawsuits from former comic author Ken Penders, the professional version of a deviant artist with an original character notice all over their work. And the games themselves were mostly mediocre. While Sonic 06 was infamous for being infested with bugs due to the fact it was rushed, it wasn't the low point for the franchise, nor was it even the worst Sonic game when it came out. No, the low point was a few years later when Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric came out, where even the previews didn't show the game as good. The original trailer, which did not run on a Wii U, looked good, but then when the Wii U gameplay footage, which was coming out and being shown at expos, was being posted online, it ran horribly. When the game came out, it was universally panned by both critics, fans, and really anyone who even saw gameplay footage of it. Its gameplay was iffy, it had bugs, and its performance issues sealed the deal. Sure, the handheld Sonic games were better, but nobody cares about Sonic handheld games, and they're always in the shadow of the Sonic console games, especially since they're side-scrollers and not 3D platformers, and side-scrollers that aren't even as good as the originals. However, Sega had a great idea to make a better Sonic game, and they decided to do it before the retro nostalgia craze eventually crashes and burns. See, Sega decided to go and get some Sonic fans who made fan games, and they said, "Here, you go, make a game. You've got our resources, you've got all this, you can now make your own fan game of your dreams." You know, unlike Nintendo, who goes and sends lawyers after their own fans for making fan games, while Nintendo to fans go defend it on the internet. And well, they made a 2D Sonic game. Not a half-assed interpretation dim style, but from what the marketing showed, a true Sonic game that plays like a Sonic game. But is Sonic Mania any good, or is it just more hyped up garbage to distract you from what's really going on in the world out there? Well, let's find out. To get into the proper Sonic fan mindset to enjoy Sonic Mania, there were a few things I had to do. First of all, I had to hurry up and use my KVM switch to switch over to my secret computer with a 20 gig plain porn kimono stash for browsing websites on that my parents don't know about. I then had to wait for that to boot up before I could go online to search for Sonic the Hedgehog porn. I then locked the door to my room and I jerked off for several hours to Sonic the Hedgehog's ass. I then went to GameStop.com to buy a code for Xbox Live so I could get Sonic Mania, because apparently the physical version is some limited edition that costs more than $60. I then had to buy the game on Xbox Live, only to find out that I had to enter my PayPal info in, because apparently $20 game cards aren't worth $20 anymore. I then chugged a bottle of soy, had some soy nuts, and watched some cartoons. And now I'm in the intense mood needed to properly enjoy Sonic Mania, so it's time to turn on the Xbox One and play Sonic Mania, the newest Sonic title from Sega, developed by the fans. So what is Sonic Mania? Well, Sonic Mania is essentially like any other Sonic the Hedgehog fan game you've seen online, except it's $20 you're not spending on Pabst Blue Ribbon. Now, I could end that there, but let's talk about what's good and bad in this game. So Sonic Mania is basically the same trick or formula as Sonic Generations, but now in 2D with bits and pieces of Saturn-era graphics. See, while the game was marketed as a brand new 2D adventure in the trailers, yes, that's what they said, guess what? Only 4 of the 12 stages are new. That's right, most of the stages in Sonic Mania are basically fangame style stages based on old stages and they're based on old stages from Sonic titles. The game relies extremely hard on nostalgia, and while even in 2017 nostalgia brings out high review scores from game critics and fans who want to play rehashed remixes of the same exact game they played as a kid 4 million times until they die from all the cholesterol from the Hot Pockets, the thing is, it doesn't make a good game at all. So the first problem is the level design. It seems like from the 2 classic levels I played, because, you know, the game has unbalanced as fuck level design, and unlike in the past, there's no level select code you can put in at the beginning of the game. The formula is this: take the stages from the original title and shove them into one for the first stage, and then the second one, you add new features and stuff, I guess, and level design ideas, and that's Act 2. Kind of like Generations. Level design in Sonic Mania is designed to give you few lives, make you die a lot, and generally feel frustrating and hard to play. You know, it was engineered for a certain crowd. See, this game's focus becomes obvious once you play it. It's not so much a family game to get the kids together and play, as it is a wank fest for 20-somethings doing GDQ speed runs, obsessing over how cool the 90s were as they play their Nintendo Switch. And remember, when you die enough times, you go back to the first stage of the zone. Isn't it fun? This is made worse by the fact that overall when playing this game, the controls just didn't feel quite right. I don't know if it's input lag or if the controls simply don't feel pixel perfect. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I died a bit from the controls feeling just a bit off. And no, I'm not playing this on some piece of shit Black Friday special Magnavox TV from Walmart. I'm playing this on an LCD monitor with less input lag. The controls and engine don't feel quite right for some reason, and the main way I noticed this is in the fact that Sonic 3 or Sonic CD had pixel perfect controls, and yet this game feels a bit off, if you know what I mean. This game features many older and Sonic and nostalgia references. If anything, this game feels like it came straight out of the time when Scott Pilgrim was the hot new thing. Hey, look, there's even a boss fight with a broken version of Puyo Puyo. Oh, and there's a reference to a terrible live stream from last year. Haha, get it? Epic fandom references and gamer memes that'll age about as poorly as the music video for Weezer's song Pork and Beans. The graphics of Sonic Mania are pretty mediocre, and they look like that of the Genesis games with a few features here and there from the 32X era, and that's it. Chaotix on the 32X featured sprite scaling, modders that have the item flip out and dissolve, a higher color palette that looked like a PS1 or Jaguar 2D game instead of a Sega Genesis game, and it actually came out in the 90s, so they put effort into it instead of making a fake retro type of game. Sure, it was a bad game that was basically an unfinished prototype, but it actually popped out to the eye and looked great. You could look at it and know, here's a 32-bit Sonic game, and it makes you wonder what a 32-bit Sonic game would have looked like if they actually made one instead of betting it all on a gimmick. But then again, this is the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise we're talking about, so... Meanwhile, Sonic Mania has the look of a multimedia fusion fan game made on the Sonic Worlds engine. For example, Sonic doesn't feature different sprites for going up ramps or curves. Instead, Sonic sprite scales, giving it a weird jaggy effect that the original titles never had, and this applies with just about all the sprites in the game, and it kind of looks weird if you know what I mean. This is the same effect commonly found on many Sonic fan games. The special stages are in Saturn level 60 FPS 3D with a stage that feels like a mix of Sonic CD and Sonic 2's special stage, where you collect blue spears to go faster, rings to extend the time, and chase a UFO with the Chaos Emerald. It also looks out of place and somewhat clashes with the 2D rest of the game. There's also bonus stages, which are literally Sonic and Knuckles' blue sphere stages copied 1-to-1. All in all, what else can I say? Sonic Mania is pretty much another retro remake style game pandering to 20-30-somethings living in their mom's basement or a crappy apartment somewhere guzzling Soylent. Really, the game itself is at best nothing special and at worst a frustrating mess. However, Sonic Mania perfectly illustrates the issue with many retro-inspired games. See, Sonic Mania's whole gimmick is that it relies on nostalgia for older Sonic titles, and that's it. Meanwhile, many older games that hold up well don't rely on nostalgia. They held up well because they were good games, and you can go into them without any sort of knowledge or memories of them, and have a really good time. In a year, people will forget about this game, just like numerous other mediocre Sonic titles that people forgot about when they weren't being hyped up on GameStop store TVs anymore. That's all that needs to be said, people. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more.